Recording. Thank everyone for attending this class on report writing and inspection of electrical defects. Harris Bright and Brick Gamore. The date today is February 8th, 2022. Really what we have here now, when we get to a screen, there's a little camera that's on the right side of your screen. You can take a picture and it'll put a JPEG so you can look at this picture later if you want. Okay, so you don't have to be doing a lot of writing. First picture, Harris, tell us what we're looking at here. I need to write this up.
We're looking at an old fused panel. And of course, old meaning it has fuse stats in it and fuses in it. The green on the left, that's a fuse stat. The green on the right is a fuse. The right one is an Edison base. The left one is also a fuse stat, which means it has an adapter in it, maximum 30 amps. It's an indoor panel placed on the outside. And it's a very old panel. Obviously, it should be replaced.
Okay, so when you see this, the immediate thing is you don't need to spend a lot of time writing up all the defects. It's just this panel has reached the end of its life and needs to be replaced.
Yes.
Okay, this may be the main. I don't see a meter here, but is that SE cable going off the top here?
Yes, that is SE cable going up to the top, and it probably is a main disconnect switch.
Okay, so in this case, the house probably only has 120 volts.
Yeah, no, well, it could be 120, but can't tell from this picture.
Okay, well, we see two wires here, a white and a dark and a black one here. It looks like so.
Yeah, there's a neutral in the middle.
Yeah, there's a neutral right here, so it looks like.
Right, so it could be 200. It could be 240 volts.
Right. Either way, it's undersized, right?
Undersized.
Thank you.
And it should be replaced.
Okay. Okay, on the outside of every doorway that exits to the exterior, what do we have to have, Harris?
You have to have a light. And it could be on the side of the door, it could be on the top of the door.
Okay, so if
we're doing have a light.
So if we're doing inspection, it's an addition, it doesn't have a light fixture, should we be writing that up?
Absolutely, yes.
Has that been required since the beginning of time, let's say into the 30s?
Yes.
Okay, so it's been required. Okay. The tile roof above, this is in a class on roofing, but we have this tile area above on this little roof. Does that roof have enough slope for tile?
Well, tile should have a minimum 410.
Okay, so if you have something in your own picture that you're showing to everybody, you need to make sure you write up all the defects you're showing to them. The window to the left, where it says 1307, is that window wide enough to meet the egress requirement to get out of a bedroom, if that's a bedroom?
No.
Probably not. We know the window's been replaced, so we got to be very careful on that. Okay, here's another electric service. Harris, I see a 2-inch mast sticking up, and the mast is sticking up to a weatherhead. It's about 19 inches above the parapet. Do I need to support that?
No, anything under 2 feet does not need additional support.
Okay, so it's a 2-foot pipe, anything over 2 feet. Okay, somebody needs to shut their mic off. It's going back through your speaker. Chris, I think it's you. Okay. Well, okay. So 2-inch pipe is 2 feet, everybody. So 2 for 2. If it's over 2 feet, you know immediately you need to have lateral support. Harris, is that a 240 volt service?
Yeah, it is 240 volt service. You can see the 3 wires on the top.
Okay, now I have low voltage attached to this cable and television. Can that be attached to the mast at all, ever?
It's not allowed.
So the answer is no.
Never.
The answer is
Never.
no. Okay, but I see it done all the time.
That is true. That's the point of attachment that all the other utilities like to use because it's so strong. However, it's still not allowed.
Okay, so if we write it up, we're well within the issues of it should not be attached.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, as we look down here, I can see a square box on top of a wooden plate. What would that junction box be for?
Okay, that was the original location for the meter, and of course, the wires that were going through the wall into the meter itself to the disconnect switch has been spliced in that box.
Okay, so you're telling me most likely the original service on this building was 30 amps or smaller, or is small, and then they came down here and they updated to 100 amps or more in this main panel. So some of the wiring inside is still inadequate.
That is correct.
Okay, so when you're writing up your report, how would you write this, Harris?
At this, well, first of all, it should be checked to see if it's the right fuse size, number one, and number two, to see the type of wire that's feeding it, to see if it's also correct.
Okay, now when you say fuse size, you mean on the sub panel inside.
That is correct, yes.
So outside, we have a breaker panel with a meter, and I have a low voltage device over here and a low voltage device at the bottom, which is probably cable. What is this box that looks like it's, I don't know, looks like a telephone interface or something hanging down right here?
It looks like it's telephone, but could be cable.
Okay, so when you're writing up your report, in this case here, they did upgrade the service, but the interior wiring is probably still inadequate. We'd have to go inside and take a look. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So here's our sub panel on another building, and we're looking inside of this. Harris, do you write up the fact? And oops, I didn't mean to do that. So let's go back. Right here, it's do we have to identify the circuits or have them identified?
Right. Every panel has to have an identified circuit list of all the circuits and what it controls.
Okay, now
circuit has to be listed for what it controls.
Okay, this is a dead friend cover. Are we required, according to the SOPs, to remove it?
Yes, we are.
And can we state why we didn't remove it?
If there's a reason not to remove it, yes, you have to state the reason.
Okay, so if I don't want to damage the paint, I don't want to take a knife out and cut the paint away from the edges, is that an adequate reason not to remove the dead friend cover?
No, not adequate at all.
Really? Okay, so I'm supposed to take out a knife and cut a groove in the paint job and their wall so I can remove that cover.
That's what I do all the time.
Okay, forget what he just said, everybody. You can make the decision not to cut that open. The way the rules are written, and I'm not saying ignore what Harris said. Harris takes out a knife. I think he uses a hatchet with a chisel and chisels along the edge there so he can take it out. But it says if you're going to damage something, you don't have to do it. Okay. But we'll go up here. So Harris, have you ever had the screws not come out on the panel?
On a few occasions, of course, yes.
And then what do you do?
Just mark it up that that screw could not be removed. You could not take the cover off.
Oh, so you do have panels where you don't remove the covers then?
On occasion.
There we go. Thank you. I feel like I'm on Perry Mason or something. Okay, now this is an interesting picture for you, Harris. The word no and the word off is here.
That is a box that's put into masonry. It's on the exterior. And of course, there's no rain-tight cover on top of it to protect those two switches.
Okay, so these two little ears on the top, what is this thing called?
What is it called?
Yes,
the yolk.
The yolk, like an egg?
Yes, yolk like an egg.
Okay, and why are those round circles there? I've always wondered why they're like that.
Those round circles are to keep the switch or the receptacle even with the surface of the whether it's sheetrock, whether it's plywood, whatever the type of surface it is, it keeps it level with that surface.
Okay. And then as I look down through here, Harris, I see a hole here where it looks like the cover plate attaches, and I see an auxiliary hole here to the side. Any clue what those would be for?
Well, the one in the center is actually for a plate. Different types of plates have different spots to fasten it. The one on the right is a rivet, and that just holds the mechanism together, the switch together.
Together. Okay, so is this switch upside down, or is it a new special one that has the word no on it?
No, it is upside down. Typically, in the up position, it should be on. In the down position, it should be off.
Now, when you say typically, is that a rule in electrical that down is off and up is on?
Yes, except for three-way and four-way switches.
Right, but the switches have the word off and on them because
that's a single pole switch.
That's the way they're supposed to be. Okay, excellent. Now, Harris, I see a screw up here that's rusty and another one over here that's not rusty. Is there any problem with that?
Well, I mean, it shouldn't be rusty, but that's your ground. It grounds the yoke of the switch to the box, and the box should be grounded.
Okay, so
should not be rusted.
Okay, so as an inspector, how are we writing this one up?
Just right up that the screw holding the switch in is rusted and should be replaced.
Okay, and how about the cover plate?
A cover plate needs to be attached also.
And what type?
Just a cover plate.
What
A
type?
ring tight.
Ring tight?
Ring tight,
Okay, and if any of you
that's
have
how
any,
they
excellent. If any of you have any questions, just click on your mic and talk. Okay, Harris, this is a light fixture. I want you to tell me what you would write up and what's wrong with it.
Well, it looks like the outside insulation for the screw, Edison-based screw to hold the bulb in, is missing. So there's no insulation there. That leaves exposed electrical parts. And the bottom has a piece of wood, which is holding that socket in place, and that's inflammable, and you can't have a flammable attached to an electrical. It's not a proper electrical installation.
Okay, so would you turn this on or would you just write up those items as being defective and move onward?
Oh, write it up and say it needs to be replaced.
Okay, so you wouldn't turn it on to prove that it still works.
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay, so
Dangerous.
it's unsafe. Yes, it's unsafe. Thank you. Okay. I put this one in here because I think I took this picture in your hallway at your house. It has this little extension cord drooped around the light fixture and then hangs down, and here's the light switch on the side. This is pretty typical in a house in the 50s and 60s. Can I have an extension cord attached to a light fixture?
No, never.
So the word's never. Okay.
Never.
Never. And it's it looks like it's a non-polarized receptacle also.
Right. It's not polarized, and you have lamp cord going in, not properly entering into a box. It's underneath the canopy of the fixture.
Okay. Now, would you say this is unsafe?
Definitely unsafe.
Okay. How would you write it?
Should be replaced
Because
it's dangerous.
okay. And everybody, when you say something isn't wired properly, why don't you just tell them what it is? Okay. Because they're going to call you and say, what do you mean? I got a nice extension cord there. It's wrapped around the fixture. Yeah, that's right. Extension cords shouldn't be wrapped around fixtures. How about that? Just tell them what it is instead of saying, what's the famous word you like to use, Harris? The wiring is what?
Dangerous.
Dangerous. There we go. Okay, here's a breaker. And at first you look at this and you say there's nothing wrong, but I want you to tell me what's wrong, Harris. I zoomed in for you so you can see it.
Yeah, the breaker on the right-hand side is damaged, needs to be replaced.
See the crack, everybody? When there's a crack in it, what does that mean, Harris?
That it's damaged and has to be replaced. It's dangerous.
Yeah, there's no repair or monitor. This is a replacement, everybody. There's probably no electrician on the planet that will look at that and say, oh, don't worry about it. We'll replace that one after it catches on fire. Okay, the other question is, Harris, let's go through these markings. It's a Bryant. It's a type BR, whatever that stands for. What's that?
BR is the type of panel that it can plug into.
Thank you. And what's BR250 mean?
BR250, it's a breaker, and it's two 50-pole breakers.
Okay, so up above here where the handle is invisible, they both say 50. Now, don't you add those together and it makes it 100?
No, it's still a 50 amp because only 50 amps are allowed through each particular breaker.
Okay, and the CUAL means what?
Copper or aluminum hookup. In other words, you can put a piece of copper wire in or an aluminum wire in.
Okay, but could I put both?
Well, no, not in the same terminal. Either one or the other.
Okay,
not both.
So it's one wire per terminal.
Yes.
Okay, so I can't have copper in one and aluminum in the other, though.
No.
Okay. It says common trip. What's that mean?
Okay, that means that has an internal trip that if one circuit shorts out or has a problem, both circuit breakers shut off.
So you're telling me the breaker could be off and the handle won't be moved, it didn't move?
Right, because it has an internal common trip.
Okay, so all of you that are doing inspections, you get there and you say, oh, the breaker's on, but I don't understand. The whole section of the house isn't working. Well, this probably covers, so this is a 50, Harris. What would this thing run?
What would it run? Maybe a stove, possibly an air conditioner.
Okay, could it run a small sub panel with other circuits in it?
Yes, it could.
Okay. Okay, Harris, I put this in here so you can remember your childhood when you would call everyone in for dinner.
Yeah, it's an intercom.
Oh, an intercom. Okay, we just stood at the door and yelled down the hallway, hey, get in here. Okay. Do you inspect these, Harris?
No, that's not part of our inspection, and you stay away from it.
And there it is.
So what do you say? Oh, you're in. Hi, Roger. What do you say?
Well,
Um,
not
I
part
got
of our
tech support on the line here.
Hey, Roger, I'm going to mute you unless you need to talk to us.
Okay, we're going to say intercoms are not part of our inspection, process.
Okay, so everybody, I take a picture of it and I put it in my report and say we didn't inspect it. I don't let my boilerplate talk for me. I take a picture of it, I put it in my report, and then I move along. Okay, there's another picture of it. Another one. Actually, these are two different ones. I thought this was cute, so I did it anyway. Okay, this was in a big, gigantic house that had a lot of lights on the ceiling. How come it's so big, Harris?
Okay, because most dimmers are rated at a maximum of 600 watts, and that could be as high as 2400 watts. In other words, it's a big dimmer, and it has a huge heat sink in it to get rid of the heat generated from the dimmer.
So if I went up and touched that or used my digital thermometer or I used my IR camera, it would show that this thing is blastingly hot.
Absolutely, yes. It'll be very hot.
And is there anything wrong with that?
No, it's made to work at that temperature.
Oh, cool. Okay. I don't understand what you said about 600 watts, though. A standard dimmer switch is 600 watts. What does that mean to me in English?
Okay. In English means that you can have bulbs on the circuit in the fixtures that equal 600 watts or less. You add up all the wattages of all the bulbs, and if it's under 600, you could use a standard 600 watt dimmer. If it's over 600 watts, you need to use a larger size dimmer.
Okay, so if I have 6 100-watt, bulbs in the ceiling, those ones that are like a heat lamp where they heat the food on the pass through, I can have 6 of those on that circuit.
Right. And the minute you go to 700, you have to get a bigger dimmer, or
Okay.
you'll burn out the dimmer.
Okay, so if I do that, the dimmer gets really hot and then burns out and won't function.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Okay, Harris, the question here is I have 6 ductless mini splits. These things are all the rage now. Everybody wants to put them in because they're so nice. And let's start at the one on the right over here, the Sanyo. This is double-headed unit. I got 2 different refrigeration lines, and I have a disconnect here. What's the rule for these?
Okay, well, each air conditioner has to have a disconnect within a line of sight to start with, number one. Number two, each disconnect needs to be supported properly, and that's called a standard stand to handle a disconnect. That is a proper stand.
Okay, now when you say disconnect, does it actually have to have fuses or breakers in it, or can it just be a disconnect that I pull and the breaker or circuit protection's over at the meter somewhere?
Okay, typically you need to have fuses inside of the unit because UL tests the unit with fuses in place, and in order to be covered by UL, you have to have fuses also, even if it has a circuit breaker in the panel.
Okay, but what's happening is a lot of the builders are putting a disconnect in with no fuses in it, and the disconnect is actually in the panel and it's breakers.
Right, but as long as the disconnect is within line of sight of the unit, it meets all the requirements.
Okay, so when I read the rating plate and it says I need a 15 amp breaker, can I go back to the panel where that breaker is and put a 30 amp breaker in for that circuit?
Not a 30. You're going to if you read that particular tag, it'll say what the maximum size is that it can be protected with.
Okay, so the maximum size says 15. That means 15 then, right?
15 means 15. If it says 20, then you can put a 20 in.
Okay, in the good old days, everyone was running around saying it could be 125% of the rated plate, blah, blah, blah. Is that really true anymore?
Well, it's true if it's listed on the tag.
It's not.
On the
It's not. The tag says maximum 30 amps. Does that mean maximum of 30 then, or 40 or whatever it says?
Right, but it'll also say minimum on that same tag.
Right. Well, I don't think anybody's writing up minimum on these. They're always writing up it's too big or something. Okay. Right. So Harris, I have a question for you then. So here I have a big unit, double-headed. There's my disconnect. Here I have 2 little smaller ones, and they're here. How do you inspect these things?
How do you inspect them?
Yeah, do
Well,
you
you
like have
pull
somebody
the cover,
put them on?
you pull the cover off and see the size of the fuses that are inside that disconnect, and see if it meets the same size that's listed on the unit itself.
Okay, so the safety device is what the technical board of registration is calling the fuses. So when you're checking on safety devices, that's what they're calling is this disconnect, everybody.
That is
So
correct.
in this case here, the refrigeration lines, the insulation is sun beaten. It's damaged here coming in. And something I found out that I didn't know, that these ductless mini splits are designed, they must have 15 feet of refrigeration line to operate properly. I didn't know that. And so the guy had cut this down to 7 feet because it looks so pretty, but it has to have 15 feet of product to work properly. Now, each brand may be different, but since I've learned that, that's why they're having trouble. Okay, if I look back here in the back, I see this turbine vent for some sort of ventilation. Not sure why. I see a T-top vent over here to the right where my mouse is. And then each one of these units on the roof is sitting on some sort of shock absorbing material. Let's call it cellulose. Some of you might call it a piece of wood for support. The manufacturer requires that these units be isolated from the roof so the vibration doesn't vibrate through them. Now, Harris, do you care if these are 230 volts or 115 volts or 120 or whatever it is?
Well, whatever it's listed for, you have to supply that type of voltage.
Okay. Hey, some of these are single phase, but they say 208 volts. How come?
Well, because different parts of the country have different standard voltages. 208, 230 is one set of voltages, and that's usually back east. And then 240 is out here in the west side
Okay.
country.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's go ahead and take a look. This is a one of these tub things. I don't know what you guys call them, whirlpool things, with a little motor in it. And here's your motor. It looks like it's all made out of plastic, but some of these have a lug on them hidden away here somewhere. If it has a lug on it for a bonding wire, do I have to have one hooked up?
Yes, as long as the manufacturer puts a lug on it, you have to have a wire under that lug, and that's a bonding lug.
Okay, so if it's there, I have to have a wire hooked to it.
That's the rule.
That's affirmative. Okay. Now on these units, everybody, I want you to take a look here and see this pile of mortar here. Everyone goes, why is that there? Well, the manufacturer years ago in their instruction manual says you're supposed to take mortar, throw it on the ground, set the tub on that to support the bottom of the tub. I used to hop inside the tub and see if it flexed, but now all the builders are doing this properly, pretty well. Now, Harris, do you inspect this by putting water in it and pushing the button and getting it to run?
Well, I usually turn on the pump to make sure that it's GFCI protected.
Ah, okay. So you're checking it for GFCI. How do you do that?
Well, what you do is you turn the motor on, listen to the pump running, and then go look for that GFCI that should be somewhere in the vicinity of that unit and shut it off.
Now, Harris, wait a minute. I thought the motor couldn't be run without water.
Oh, it can. As long as you're not running it for long periods of time, you could run it. It doesn't build up that much heat.
Okay, so the motor itself is sitting outside the water, just the impeller is in the water.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, Harris, I want you to start at the top left-hand side and tell me why the dining room has that green button that says test on it.
Good. That is called an AFCI, arc fault circuit interrupter.
Okay, it has the word combination arc fault.
Well, if it says combination, it's a GFCI, AFCI. If it's just an AFCI, it's an arc fault. If it's combination, it's GFCI, AFCI.
Okay, so everybody has to read them to figure out what they really say. This one here is a 2-pole 50. Is that 100 or is that 50?
It's still 50 amps.
Okay, and on this, if we zoomed in, here, let's zoom in. It's hard to read, but right here it says common trip.
Right.
So,
and if you notice the AFCIs on the right-hand side say combination.
Yeah, so right over here. Now, are we required to push the button and test these if the house is occupied?
If the house is occupied, you do not test them. If it's unoccupied, you do test them.
Okay, So when the new standards of practice come out, there's going to be a statement about testing these things where we didn't have one before. It said we have to test a representative amount, but it doesn't say that. It says you must test all GFCIs, and if you don't test them, to state why. So I didn't realize it said that. I thought it was representative amount, but sure enough, in the standards it says GFI shall be tested. It doesn't say all; it just says they shall be tested. Okay.
So one thing I want to clear up.
Who's speaking?
The combination arc fault protection is actually not GFCI, AFCI. Your original AFCI protection breakers only detected, I believe it was series arcs. So it was only arcs in the power carrying conductor, current carrying conductor. The dual function is the one that operates GFCI and AFCI, or combination AFCI.
Yeah, here I zoomed in. It's a combination arc fault. It says right here on the right side.
Right. So it detects both arc faults it detects arc faults only in the power conductor, and then the parallel faults now, which is your combination fault. So now all the new ones are combination. They're detecting also between arcs between the neutral and the hot.
Right, yeah. We had series and parallel, so this covers, I think, both of them.
So that's right. It covers both arc faults. Your dual function are the ones that came out in around 2012 or 13. They were getting them going because in 2014, the kitchen required arc fault and GFCI protection at the countertops. So it was a dual function, and they are a different color.
Yes.
For instance, in square B, I believe they're purple. So your arc fault, your combination arc fault, which is the two different arc faults, is like the green there. And then, but then you got the dual function, which will be your combination arc fault and GFCI.
Sure. Harris, anything else to add to that?
Well, what you were talking about originally on the original AFCI, and you said it was a series type of a arc fault tester, and that was because it had a lot of common tripping. Ladies would plug in their vacuum cleaners, and of course every motor arcs, and that would cause the circuit breaker to trip, and it was a lot of nuisance trips. Then they came out with parallel types of arcs, and parallel types are a different type of an arc. It doesn't require a motor, and so you're right. Combination was arc for series and parallel types of arcs. And then, of course, what we're talking about is the combination, dual combination, again, like you were saying, AFCI, GFCI. And by the way, the original GFCI, AFCI had 30 milliamps. You couldn't use it for protecting any bathroom circuits. It was strictly for saunas and spas, things like that. The new ones now are down to 6 milliamps, which means that your trip tester will cause it to trip.
Okay, so Harris, I want to know, is there anything I need to write up on this panel right here? Is there anybody want to write anything up on this?
Actually, all you have to do is say that those type of breakers are in the panel.
Yeah, I see them. Yeah, I see them, but is there anything defective in here? Can you update anything?
Nothing is defective. Looks nice.
Okay, Harris, let's start at the top here. It says 40/40. What's that mean to me?
You have a maximum of 40 circuits in that particular panel. 200 amps
Okay.
is the maximum amperage.
I'm going to come down here. 200 amps maximum. It says 12240 VAC1. What's that mean?
Volt AC, single phase, 3-wire service.
Okay, so one phase is single phase, and the 3 watt means what?
3W is 3 wires.
Oh, 3 wires, not 3 watts.
Right.
Ah, cool. Okay, and then down here it says, is this like English? I don't know. It says V120-240.
Spanish. That's Spanish.
Oh, that's Spanish. Okay, then thank you. I wondered why I couldn't read it. Okay, here it says 208Y120 VAC single phase 3 wire from 3-phase 4-wire network. Do we need to worry about that?
We don't have to worry about that. Strictly commercial out here.
Thank you. Okay, so this enclosure is rated as rainproof. So is that what most exterior panels are rated for?
All exterior panels are rated rainproof.
Okay, they're rainproof, but they're not waterproof.
Rain tight, rain proof,
Okay.
rain resistant.
Okay, so we have a panel that's rated even higher if we're in an area like on a boat or at the coast where we might want to have it really, really protected. Okay, I think that's it on that one, Harris. Let's go to the next one. This is square D. This one says 30/40. What's that mean?
That means you could have 30 single breakers or 40 with some twins in it.
Oh, okay. So if I went back, so this one here cannot have any twins or wafers, or that's an Eaton. I can't have any twins in there. It'll only take full size breakers.
That is right.
Okay, so everybody see that? So when you go to a panel, it says 40/40, and you see these little mini breakers in there, they can't be there. It says it right on this thing here. And everyone going, well, who makes you the expert? I don't know, Eaton does. It says right there. Okay. And even when I say it, and it's an electrician standing in front of me, they just stare at you and blink their eyes. Hi, Harris.
Right. Well, SC 30 means 30 full size or 40 with 10 twins.
Okay. Now, one of the things I see here, some of the software we have, it says 110, 220 for the power. Does anyone have 110, 220 power anymore?
Not here. East Coast, yes.
Okay, let's pretend we're not on the East Coast, though. So the
And
power.
no,
So your
not
report.
available here.
Thank you. So your reports to be correct need to say 120, 240 because that's what it says on the meter, right?
Right.
Okay. So when you go out to your meter and you look at it, if one of you could call me when you ever find, you don't have to call me, take a picture, send it to me. If you ever find a meter that says the other numbers, okay? Okay, it says suitable for underground or overhead service. Load connectors not to exit through the top end wall. Oh, that's weird. What does it mean, load connectors not to exit through top end wall?
Okay. Load connectors are the panel feeders. In other words, it goes out of the meter and it can't go out the top or end. It has to go out the back or the bottom.
Cool. Okay, down below it here says suitable for 75-degree C copper. I don't know what C copper is.
Okay, 75 degrees Celsius, and it has to be copper wires or aluminum line conductors.
Oh, okay. So Celsius is like that incredible like temperature they use in other countries. Is that what you mean?
That's the one.
Okay. So if I were able to go to Google right now and check that, what is 75 degrees Celsius?
Probably 184 degrees.
It's pretty hot, everybody. So these wires are made. Okay, so C branch circuits for branch ratings. Down here, as we come down here, line terminals suitable for 4 AWG. What is that?
American wire gauge.
Oh, okay.
American wire gauge.
Okay, and then it says torque node. Are you supposed to torque those wires with the lug nut?
Absolutely.
Huh.
There's a specific amount of torque you're supposed to use for each connection.
Oh, okay. You just don't tighten it until it feels tight, huh?
Right. You just have to do it to the right pressure. Otherwise, it distorts the lug and creates a problem.
Okay. Okay, Harris. We're doing an inspection, and we're here at the house, and we turn all these things on at the same time, and they glow, and then all of a sudden they all go off.
That's because they're all on the same circuit and they don't all belong on the same circuit.
Well, this is an all-in-one unit. The oven, the stovetop, and the broiler are all in the same unit. So this
That's
was
the old GE type of unit,
right.
and it probably has the wrong size circuit breaker in the main panel.
Okay, so what size would have been required for this thing?
This would have required a 60 amp 2-pole breaker.
Okay, so you'd see a 60 or a 50. These are used to trip all the time, but I like to turn all these on and get them glowing like crazy. Nobody, I think, has any of these anymore. But it had the down here the self-cleaning, and then down
Right.
here you pull a metal tray up in the front for the blast door, as we called it, to keep the glass from blasting out into the room. Okay, Harris, here are some fuses from your house. They've painted over them. How would you test those to tell us if they're still being used?
Well, I don't see any wires on it to start with. That would be number one.
Oh,
And
okay.
number two, it's, it's not in use at this point.
Okay, so why are there two holes up here above these two fuses?
Well, that's where the wires that entered and exited when that was in use.
So the knob and tube entered that, and they had loom or a tube going through there for the 30 amp service right here.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I got a piece of Romex coming out here, and they got a nail holding it. That's probably the best, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. He doesn't mean it, everybody. Should this be in conduit, or how should that be secured?
Yeah, it's got to be protected from physical injury.
Okay, and how high up in the air does that have to be? I'm like 6
More
foot.
than 8 feet.
How much?
More than 8 feet off the ground.
Okay, so 8 feet or above. And where is that in the code book? If I got a code book out, because I was like one of those guys that can't help myself, where would that be, Harris?
Okay, you look in the section that has definitions. You look for installation of wire, and it will tell you exactly what it could be.
Yeah,
The Romex type wire.
there's a whole section in there. What is this wire called? It's a Romex.
Romex.
Yeah, NMB.
NM, non-metallic Romex.
Yeah, and then it has the B rating on some of them because the rating got changed. So NMB or NM.
Right.
Okay, Harris. I saw this on a house the other day. I use my I use the end of my magnet here to test it, but this is a central vacuum. Central vacuum.
Right, it's a vacuum system. That's low voltage, by the way.
Yeah.
12 volts.
Yeah. So I just stick this ferrous metal detecting tool in here, and the metal of it conducts electricity, and I touch these two probes in here, and the vacuum comes on, so I don't have to run and get the hose.
Right. We could use a quarter.
I don't have a quarter, Harris. I'm not that wealthy. So, Harris, do you test these by turning them on?
Yes, you should test them. It's an appliance that's built into the house.
Yeah, it's not required under our standards. Under our SOPs, it lists central vacuums as one of the items you do not have to test. So you take a picture and state you did not test it, or yes, you pushed it and the motor made noise.
Right.
Harris, this is that I don't know whose picture that is. It's not me. Can I use an extension cord to make the outlet behind the stove long enough to plug in my microwave?
No, you cannot. Can't have any extension cords at all.
So this is wrong?
It's wrong.
Okay, so they're going to have to install an outlet for this microwave.
Right. Typically, every appliance won't have a cord more than 2 feet long.
Okay, so I guess I don't understand. Are you telling me then, can I just run this down and can I take off the extension cord and run it down behind there and just plug it into one of the wall outlets then?
No, you're not allowed to have that type of wire running through the wall. It's illegal. It's dangerous.
I'm just going to run it through the cabinet.
Still not. You can't go through a cabinet wall either. Not allowed.
Well, you've said a lot of things I can't do. What can I do?
You can have a receptacle within 2 feet of that cord.
Inside the cabinet.
Inside the cabinet.
There we go. That's the secret, everybody. It's inside the cabinet, not outside. Okay, Harris, what's this white product wrapped around the pipe up here in this location?
Oh, that's called asbestos.
Okay, so this white tape commonly might contain a substance. Do you tell them to get it tested, or you just say, I think it's asbestos, and you move on?
Well, you say it's asbestos, and you suggest that it be tested and removed if it is asbestos.
Yeah, okay. I don't use the word asbestos to anybody. So again, Harris and I are two different ends of the pole here. He's out on the end of the gangplank. I'm on shore. Well, he's saying this is asbestos. But I just say this substance here was commonly used to wrap around all this type of pipe. You need to have it tested, and then you can either encapsulate it or remediate it as needed based on your wishes. When someone finds out it's asbestos after testing, their heads explode and they immediately want it covered because they might be storing food up there. A lot of you say, oh, I don't want to tell them. I don't want to bother them. What are you talking about? Come on.
You see, the big difference is I watched them install this stuff and I knew it was asbestos.
Yeah.
So there's the difference.
So guys, here's how it was installed. They took in a bucket of water or a dish and they held onto this thing like a bandage, and they dipped it into the water back and forth, and then they wrapped around, they patted it with their hands while they were smoking a cigarette in one hand.
Pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close. Harris, I want you to tell me what I'm looking at.
Okay. Most likely you're in a garage, and that is a UFA ground that's tied to the rebar coming up through the cement.
And why would it be in the garage floor like that, sticking up out of the cement?
Well, typically, electricians used to put 20 feet of copper wire in the trench with the rebar. Then it was decided that 20 feet of rebar was a good ground. All we had to do was attach a wire to it. But way back in the 20 years ago, people would come along and cut the ground wire off, and you wouldn't have a UFA. So now they stick a piece of rebar up through the footing, and then you can use a special clamp and attach your ground to that particular clamp and go into your panel. And that's legit. And since every ground wire at point of attachment must have an access panel, you see a 2-gang box opening there in the wall. So you can always see it and get to it.
Okay, so this is good. That's what you're telling me after all that talking.
Yes.
Thank you. Man, I want this inspection done today. Okay, I'm in a kitchen. This is a fairly new house, Harris. Do the lights and the GFI outlets on the walls need to be on different circuits, or can I put the whole kitchen and the lights and the receptacles on the same circuit?
No, you cannot. First of all, in a kitchen, you have to have a minimum of 2 individual circuits for the receptacles. Those would be rated at 20 amps.
Right back here.
Lighting circuit rated at 15s.
Okay, so does that mean the island has to be GFI protected?
Yes, the island has to be GFI protected.
Does that mean always?
Always.
Okay, so the island must be GFI. Can I have at least one outlet, or do I have to have 2?
Depending on the size of the island, you can have 1 or 2.
Okay, and can I have them under the part here where I sit with my chair, or can I not have an overhang where the outlets are installed?
Well, it's got to be within 18 inches from the top down. Can't be anything lower than 18 inches.
Okay, so when I look here in the back, I see this space is 4 feet wide. Let's pretend it is. And I see the receptacles mounted in the middle of that 4-foot section. And the same thing here. Is that because the cords on all appliances are 2 feet long?
That's correct.
Huh.
For every 2 feet of counter space, you have to have a receptacle.
Okay. So I could have them every 4 feet, you're telling me.
Right.
Okay. Up here above, I can see that they put a nice range hood in, and then they put a piece of, I don't know what this is, but it looks like they use duct tape and wrap some joints. Would this be okay, unfinished looking like this, or do you think that's it for this kitchen?
Some people like that look.
Ah, there we go. I would write that up myself and say this looks unfinished. Ask the builder if they're going to put anything else up on here. Up above me, I see supply and I see a possible return. Can I have a return in a kitchen ever?
You shouldn't have a return in the kitchen.
The answer is no. So when
No.
it says shouldn't have, the answer is no. That's
Right.
listed somewhere on the rules. So here's supply, here's a return. That's weird. They're going to have to fix it. This round disc that looks like something is part of the fire suppression system.
Right. Sprinkler system.
Yeah, sprinkler system. Hey, Harris, I watched the movie Die Hard with a Vengeance, and I watched number 1, 2, 3, and 4 the other day just to get back into it. He always lights a piece of paper and turns on the sprinkler system, and it goes off all over the building as he's running along, and glass is breaking everywhere. Is that how these sprinkler systems work?
No, they don't work like they're individual. In other words, at a certain temperature, that valve will melt, the little link will melt and turn on the sprinkler right over there.
So it only comes out of that location, not all over the house.
Right.
Okay, so everybody, you could go out to the outside now. In Scottsdale, they require sprinkler systems. Now in Pima County, they require sprinkler systems depending how far away you are from the area, and you can go outside where the test port is, and you can turn that on, and a bell should turn on, and you can test those if you like. If not, then the fire department should come and test them.
Not a good idea to do. Some of them are tied into the fire department. They'll respond.
Yeah, they're tied into the alarm system, I found out. Yeah, nothing rings at the fire department, even commercial now. They ring through an alarm company, and then the alarm company calls the fire department through the fire marshal. Okay, Harris, I'm up on the roof, and I'm looking at a weatherhead here, and I'm seeing this wire come in here through and it's sort of multi-stranded, and it looks like they put some sort of connector on here and tied this in on this wire. It looks like a mess to me. It's sort of close. If I take a picture like this and I can't tell what it is, should I even be putting this on my report?
Well, if you don't know what it is, you can question it. If you know what it is, then you can call it out that it's your neutral.
Oh, okay. So does this need to be fixed, or is this okay?
No, a neutral could be bare.
So this is okay, whatever I'm staring at.
Right.
If I don't know what it is it okay to say an electrician should look at this and verify it's safe?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I can say that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're not going to laugh at me and call me a home inspector. You're just being too picky.
Nope. Because that's a crimp connector that connects the neutral and the neutral going into the panel.
Ah, there's the answer, everybody. Take a look right here. This is a crimp connection that's done by the power company. They most likely did this connection because the electricians don't have this, do they?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, they do. Okay. Well, they don't like to use it. They like to use tape and some other little fancy thing. Okay, Harris, I want you to stare at this a minute, and I want you to tell me what's wrong. Everybody take a look. It's an all-electric house, had 2 meters, and this one here had to be rewired. I'll just tell you that right now because they had this is for the water heater. This is for the main house. It has the RF signal on it here. Here's my main breaker. And
right.
You take a look, I see wires coming out and over. But here's something weird. Look at these 2 number 10 wires going right past this disconnect from the meter base, continuing.
Yeah, you're not allowed to use a disconnect switch as a feed through. You're not allowed to use a panel as a feed.
English. What are you telling me?
In other words, you can't run wires through a panel or through a switch to feed another object, whether it be a disconnect or an object, an electrical thing. You can't go through it. You can't use it as a feed through, meaning you can't go through it.
Yeah, I hear him saying it. It's very difficult, everyone, because we use that same word. Okay, so I had 2 different meters here, and one meter sent power from one panel into another panel. Right now, these 2 red wires probably just bypass where this thing does, and they've connected it right to the other meter. So the thing is, this wire here runs across and it's tied into this pull block. And what does this pull block run, Harris?
That's the water heater.
It runs the water heater. So right now, we're running number 10 wire off the meter. Is that undersized for a water heater?
Well, considering that the main service is rated at 200 amps, yes.
Okay, so here's the issue, everybody. Is this really sort of unsafe?
It definitely is unsafe.
Okay, there we go. I got him to say it, everybody. Thank you, Harris, for agreeing with me. Okay, so the problem here is I'm running directly off this meter, this number 10 wire to this pull block here. And I wrote this one up and, oh, man. And then I came over and pulled the meter, and sure enough, there it was, just tied in. And it's just, fat, dumb, and happy. And all these cleaning supplies are right here because the washer hookup's right next to it outside. But I wrote it up. I don't know what brand this is, this big breaker. It says 200 amps. Cool. So wrote that up. This is pretty cool. These are all over some of the builders. You flip the switch and the lights blink.
Yep. It's called an emergency switch. What that is all the units like up in Sun City have this type of switch. What it is off on the bottom, turns the light off, push the button to on, the light stays on. And if you put it in the middle, your light is going to blink in the event of an emergency so that a ambulance or whoever needs to be there for an emergency will respond to a blinking light in front of the house so they can find that house quickly.
Excellent. So I had an inspector. I don't know. Some of you do write this up, I'm quite sure, so you don't have to tell me you did. See how the slot's straight up and down? He went through the house and all of them were off at a 45 and he wrote that all up. He must have been ex-military or something, but you can write up whatever you like. Okay, so Harris, I've got a receptacle, or no, I've got a light fixture here with one of these weird looking bases. It looks like it's one of those lights they used to ship to you in the mail. And then I got a piece of tape wrapped around this. It's a photocell, I'll just let you know what it is. And it looks like they made a tube around the photocell, and then they wanted to make sure it was really attached well, so they used some long drywall screws to drive it into the box. What's wrong with this?
Well, couple things. Number one, you can't use drywall screws to fasten that plate to the box.
Okay, so that's the number one, bad.
Number two, what they did was they made the photocell not active any longer because the bulb has a built-in day-night sensor. That at night it automatically goes on, in the daytime it shuts off. It's dusk to dawn built right into the bulb. So you don't need the photocell because that's a redundant type of setup.
Okay, when it was first set up, the photocell was here, and if the photocell can see the light comes on, it makes it shut off. So that'd be
Right.
wrong, right?
That's right.
Okay. Okay, Harris, I'm looking up at the ceiling. I think this is the garage because there's the hookup. And I have this button on the ceiling. I see this all the time. Everybody's putting this on the internet. It's always asking what it's for and what it is.
It's a heat sensor.
And
That is a heat sensor. So if a fire breaks out in the garage, it activates that sensor, which sends the alarm into the alarm company, which calls the fire department.
okay, now when you say heat sensor, I went up there, I pushed on it. It doesn't seem to push or anything. What is it? What's in there?
Oh, it's just a sensor that reacts to temperature.
Oh, okay. So it's like a bimetallic metal that shrinks
Right.
and makes touches and
Right. If it was a smoke detector, it would be a different type of unit. That happens to be a heat detector.
oh, cool. Okay. There's a receptacle on the ceiling here, and I see this cord's plugged into it, and it's a 15 amp receptacle. I did a new house the other day, and all the receptacles in the garage, even the one for this thing up here, were GFI protected.
Right. That's the new code. Old code didn't require it.
Oh, okay. So the old code said that these receptacles up there weren't GFI'd, but all the ones around the room that I could plug into are GFI protected.
That is right.
Okay, but if the one on the ceiling is GFI protected, the reset's required to be down on the ground so I can reset it without a ladder?
Yes. Has to be accessible without using a ladder or any special means.
Okay, so when you test it, the way to do it is you walk back over the garage door opener and it won't work. So before you leave the house after you do the test on these new ones, please reset it so they'll stop calling. Okay, on the left side, I have a 200 amp breaker. Is that what I got?
Oh, you have a 100 amp breaker.
100, okay. And I'm not trying to make fun of anybody, but man, I don't know how many of these reports I look at, they write down 200 amp service. It's a 100 amp breaker. Okay, it says Cutler hammer. It says type C2 100. So it tells you right on the breaker, even if you can't read the handle, it says it on the breaker. Okay, now it says 12240V ACCA. What's that mean?
120 volts, and it's AC.
Uh-huh.
And CA is for Canada.
Canada. Oh, Canada. Okay. And then CUAL is copper.
Copper, aluminum.
Okay. Here's something I found
HACR.
interesting. It says HACR type. What does that mean?
That means that it's rated for air conditioners.
What?
It's rated for an air conditioner.
Cool. And what does that mean?
That means it'll take the startup overload that a compressor puts on the electrical wires for a short period of time without tripping.
Huh. Are most of the new 2-pole breakers designed that way?
Most of them are, but they still have to be marked.
Okay, it has to have a mark on it, everybody. So take a look right here. So if that's on an air conditioner and it's a breaker, it has to say that on there. If it doesn't, it's wrong.
Well, not only that, if you look at the tab on the air conditioner, it'll say that's the type of breaker it has to be protected with.
Right. Cool. Hey, Harris, there's a hole in the middle of this breaker right here. How come?
Well, that's, if you can use that for a main breaker, there's the attachment to screw it into the panel so it can't be removed easily.
So if I'm backfeeding a panel and it has a 100 amp breaker in it, there's supposed to be a screw in that hole.
Yes,
Okay. Now down here it says 2-pole J969. J969. What's that mean?
I don't know what the 969 is, but it is a 2-pole.
Thank you. And all these other numbers don't mean anything to us because we don't care.
No. Nothing to an electrician either.
Yeah, okay. But either way, if you notice here, it says off and it says on. It's the same way as switches. Up is on, down is off. Now, when the panel's standing straight up and the breakers flip, in is on and out is off.
Right.
Okay.
And if you look at that slash, that means that it can be put down horizontally as well as vertically.
See right there. That's what that means, everybody. Okay, now go over here to the right side. Now, if you notice, this is a full-size breaker. See here? Here's one, here's two. It's tied together. But this panel must allow twins to be installed because now I have 4 of them in the same space and I have 2 over here. Now, this one has a broken handle. If it's broken, Harris, do I need to have it replaced?
Yes, it should be replaced.
Okay, now how do I know that these two can't have a double handle on them?
How do you know? If you look at the tag, it shows that it's not interconnected.
Okay, but would these two next to each other that are wafers or twins ever be connected together, or would it be the 2 outside ones and these 2 right here where it's split in the bus?
It would be called a quad breaker, and it'd be the 2 outside ones and the 2 inside ones.
Right. Okay, so everybody, these 2 here are on one leg of the 120. These 2 are on the other leg of the 120 to make 240 power. So these 2 and then the 2 outside ones would be tied together. Do these typically have common trip, Harris?
Well, if it's a quad breaker, yes. If it's a 4 single poles, no.
Okay, so I'm sort of asking Harris because I've been looking a lot. The older ones are not internal trip. They have a metal strap on them, and these things are a pain because one will trip, it'll try to pull the other one off, and they just don't work very well. So I've been looking a lot at these, and many of the older type don't have internal trip. The label here usually has a diagram on showing us that.
Right.
Harris, I put these in here for you. These are the knockout punches for the chassis for putting in the radios in a car.
Electricians still use them.
Yeah, I was in picking up some wire the other day, and I says I want a hole punch, and the building got quiet. Like I just said, I want a bat. I want to go chase baby seals, and you know. And the guy says, "Oh no, we use those saws, those round things where we cut a hole." But either way, these are radio chassis punch holes. I thought, well, this is pretty cute. Okay, Harris, are we required to have dual power sourced smoke detectors?
Well, yes and no. Old houses, no. New houses, yes.
Okay, so if I'm doing an inspection and I see a wire here, can they put a battery operated one there, or must it be electrical like it was?
In that one particular that you're looking at on the left-hand side, it has to have dual power. One is it's an interconnected smoke detector, which means it connects to other smoke detectors in the house. And secondly, it has to have a battery backup in case you lose power.
Okay, so this one, it's sort of hard to see, everybody. I'm going to zoom in. There's no orange wire here. So unless the orange wire is hidden back inside of here, this one probably isn't interconnected.
Well, you see a black, red, and a white.
Yeah.
It is interconnected. The red happens to be your interconnection wire.
Perfect. See, there you go. So that's your interconnect for those when this plugs in. Now, Harris, what's the one to the right for?
Okay, that's a smoke detector also that's hooked up to an alarm system.
So
we don't check that because if somebody decides not to use an alarm system that's built into the house, that will not be activated. So it's not considered an active smoke detector.
Okay.
It has to be disregarded.
Okay, so do you take a picture and say that the other alarm system items were not inspected? or you just ignore it and move on?
Right. Well, you're missing a smoke detector, number one.
Yeah.
And the second one is hooked up to the alarm system, which is not part of the safety system.
Right. So we take a picture and we make a statement that we did not inspect the alarm system or any of its components, even though it's in our boilerplate. It's in our. We take a picture of it and say we didn't inspect it, so we don't know if it functions. We just say it. Okay, Harris, I put this one in here special for you. Okay, so we know they've updated the service. Is that correct?
It looks like they updated the panels.
Ah, okay. So if I look up here at these meter bases that are round, it has a 1-inch pipe. So the original service before we put these updated panels in was what size?
Maximum 60 amps.
Okay, so maximum 60. So the services could have been 30 amps. They brought in 240 power, but either way, something coming down here goes through this meter base, goes through it, and comes through a little pipe here to feed this meter base.
Yes.
Pretty typical installation back in 1940.
Oh, yeah. Even in the 50s.
Even in the 50s. Okay, so I'm going to come down here to this panel, Harris. That square box is supposed to have something right here. What would be there typically?
Should have a main breaker.
Okay, am I required? So this is probably a duplex or a house with 2 meters. Which one would it
Right.
be? What do you
So
think?
those panels are illegal because it takes more than 6 throws of the handle to shut off all the power to the units.
There you go, everybody. That's why Harris is the man. He is the electrical guru.
Guru.
You are the sultan of swing, baby. Come on. Okay, so let's take a look in here. We can see that we have all these wafers in here, these twins. Look at them. Boom, 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 boom. So here's a 2-pole breaker. So it says AC and it says sub. Oh, geez. We have more than 6 disconnects. Now I keep seeing people put down 6 hand throws. Is that what the code says, or what does it say?
Well, it used to say hand throws, but they changed it
To what?
to six operate 6 switches or six operations to shut off all the power.
Okay, so that's how it works, everybody. I can have 6 panels under the meter, 6 of them across, or I can have 6 breakers in the panel that shut off all power. If that's not correct, it's wrong. Okay, so over here I have an LB coming in, another one here. I have conduit coming off the bottom. I have electrical outlet below. Okay, so do I care about all this rest of this junk all attached to it, or are these 2 panels incorrectly installed?
Well, the 2 panels are incorrectly installed. You don't have to go any further than that.
Okay, are they unsafe as designed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. These are unsafe as designed. There's no way to shut off the power for safety.
Right.
What's the cost of this? Is it under $10,000?
Oh, yeah. Most likely it's, you're talking 6,000.
Yeah, we don't care what it costs, everybody, but it's under 10 grand and it's sure more than 1,000. But whatever, I don't talk about money. Now Harris can probably throw some numbers out there, but they always say, well, how much is it? And I go, where are you from? And they go, California. And I'm going, well, what sounds like a lot of money to you? And they go, 25,000. And you go, well, it's not that, you know? Okay, Harris, this thing is sitting on the ground. Here's the meter and here's the panel. Can that possibly be correct?
That's okay,
Why?
because there's no limit to how low a panel can be, but there's a limitation on how high it can be.
Is the limitation based on how low a meter can be to the ground?
No, the limitation is on how high the circuit breaker to shut the power off can be off the ground.
Okay, but is there a limitation for meters? Meters have to be
No.
a certain height.
No. Nope.
Can't be higher than and lower than.
They could be on the ground.
Okay, it's based on whatever your municipality says. So TEP has a rule that they want it between 4 and 6 or whatever it is. We don't care. But there is no rule for the electrical panels. When Harris told me this, I had to go look it up. And oh man, my head's been exploding ever since. Thanks, Harris.
You're welcome.
Yes. Okay, now this one only takes a second to look at. What's wrong, Harris?
That front cover is not properly fitted to the panel.
Why do you think that's the case?
I could see a big airspace between the dead front cover and the circuit breakers.
Okay, why don't you think that cover will be able to push it back against it?
Most likely there are wires from the circuit breakers holding that dead front cover away from where it should be.
Why can't you just push them back in with the dead front cover?
Well, you can push them in, but you might have a little explosion.
Okay, so would you spend any time removing the cover, or would you say the wires are sticking out, this is unsafe condition, repairs need to be made?
That's what most other people would do.
What would you do?
I would take the cover off.
Thank you. Now, Harris, has this panel had something added to it, and have they derated the main?
Well, they didn't necessarily derate the main. What you see there is a sticker that says that panel is backfed from solar panels on the roof.
Cool. Let's see what we've done here. Oh, okay, we're going to jump around here a minute. This is the light fixture in the bathroom of a house where it has a two-prong unpolarized receptacle, and they made it so they could plug something else in by this multi-plug. How about that, Harris?
Well, that's illegal now because it's not GFCI protected.
You mean unsafe?
Unsafe.
Yeah, okay. So illegal, I mean, people drive through red lights or yellow red lights all the time. Is that unsafe?
That's unsafe.
Okay. So the same thing here, everybody. It might be illegal, but, come on. You've paid your taxes late. You've done things where you said, oh, give me a ticket. I just went through a red light. But this is unsafe. So we need this repaired. How do we fix this, Harris? New light fixture?
You replace the fixture and then put GFCI protected outlet in the bathroom because you'll have no place to plug a hairdryer in or curling iron or even a shaver.
Okay, I hear a lot of talking there. Do I need another wall outlet?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so that's going to require money now, right?
Money.
Money. Okay, so they're going to have to install a wall receptacle.
That is GFI protected.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, this one's too big, but okay, let me go back here. Maybe I can. Oh, I can't. Okay, I made it too big. There's a chain hanging down, and here's a shelf. It's an exposed bulb. Can I have an exposed bulb in any closet?
Not allowed.
So the answer is no. Thank you.
Has to be an enclosed fixture.
Can I just put a LED bulb in it, move on?
Nope. It's got to be enclosed.
Okay, here's a switch that has a light built into it. Why?
It's a pilot light to show that the switch is in the on position or in the off position. Light off, it's off. Light on, it's on.
Okay, so I see these back east all the time for basements.
Yep.
So you know the light was on in the basement. You can buy these. They're the cutest. You notice how the screw is straight up and down?
Mm-hmm.
I use my screwdriver on that to straighten it because it bothered me. Okay, wiring above pools has to be how high, Harris?
At 15 feet from any edge of a pool.
Okay, so here's this wire, and here's a low voltage wire above this pool. And of course, the guy came running out and laid this here for me. But on the yard itself, how high does that? The lowest point of the wire has to be off the ground. How far?
Okay, no less than 10 foot to the drip loop.
Okay, but out here in the yard where this thing's hanging down, it has to be 10 feet to that too, right?
Right.
Okay. This one's just out of focus, but I don't see a red light on, and so it has a good light on it. Does anyone know of any of these that say wiring is good or it makes a beeping noise? I'd really like to buy one. Okay, if someone would like you to make one. Okay, this one takes a second to understand what you're looking at. This is the outside panel, and I'm looking into the panel down, and they've installed a light fixture facing, the back facing up. There's no box, and the two wires that run it are just coming up through the panel here, and they're wire nutted here, and it's got one of these lights, and then here's the photocell, and the owner came home. I said, what's this thing doing? It's on the bottom of the panel. He says, oh, when someone comes in the side yard, it kicks on this light. Okay, great. Either way, there's no box there, and it's tied into the circuit. What do you say, Harris?
Not legal.
Okay.
Remove it.
Yeah, okay. So the light fixture's been installed on, it's an unsafe condition. Light fixture's been installed. I tell them what it is. in case the other electrician comes and goes, wow, that's a great idea. Can you show me how to wire it that way? Okay, Harris, this is the panel label that's on the panel for a Cutler hammer. Do they sell these anymore?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Okay, so this one appears to be 400 amps. Why do I think
Right.
that?
Because that's what it says.
Thank you. It says 40, 40, 40. Weird.
Right.
Okay, so does that mean I can put only full-size breakers in here?
Right. 40 full-size breakers in the main panel. That's where this is located. And 40 in the sub panel that will be fed from the other breaker.
So if you take a look here at the top, right here where I'm making a circle, there's a breaker here that says 200 amps probably or something. And one next to it says 200 amps that runs a sub panel somewhere else.
Right. Maximum 40 in each panel.
Okay, so right here it says 200. Okay, it's telling me it can be field installed 200 amps here and 100 over here or 200. It says it right here.
Right.
Cool. Okay, so
Now the 100 amps the 100 amps you're looking at on that one,
yeah.
that's the biggest breaker you can put in the sub panel.
Oh, yes, right, in the sub panel. Okay, so let's come back over here and go down through this thing here. It says it's rainproof. We've already talked about the 12240. I know that. I don't care about any of this stuff. Watt meter, who cares? Cutler hammer. Okay, so when we talk about breakers that aren't the correct type, it tells me what are. Cutler hammer, it seems to be the brand they like. And then it tells me all the different types that can fit in here.
Right.
Huh.
Now also Cutler hammer and Eaton are all the same, made by the same company.
Yeah. Okay, so as I look down here at the bottom here, it says for the disconnect, and then again a Cutler hammer. I can't read any of this down here. So up here it says installation and this equipment should be in accordance with all the local codes. Sure. The sum of the installed circuit breakers not to exceed 225 amps. What are you talking about? I add them all up?
No, that's the total amount of power you can use at any one time, which is called a load calculation.
Okay, so they'll do a load calculation to determine if I've exceeded 225 amps.
Yeah, but you can't do a load calculation, so disregard that.
Okay, but you can.
I can do it, but you
Oh,
shouldn't.
yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, Harris. Okay, so Harris could do it if he had to. Pull section. Okay, so here, accessories, semi-flush flange kit, manual bypass. Look at this thing. It's like we're doing a heart transplant. Top feed gutter kit. Do not install or remove bypass under load. Whatever. Okay, so we come down here, Harris, and it's telling me wire size. Oh, it tells
And
me.
then the torque.
Huh?
And then if you look at the torque,
Yeah.
inch pounds.
Yeah. I know they sell them over at a place called Harbor Freight because some guy was doing a commercial and was showing us how to torque it. Okay. Down here it says, again, 60, 75 amps, suitable for use as service equipment, only for service equipment. So why are they telling us only as service equipment? Because it has a meter?
Right, it's got to be at the meter, correct. Because the meter is attached to the panel, by the way.
Okay. Anything else you want to say on this panel?
Nope, it's
Okay,
a 400 amp panel.
Okay, Harris, the disconnect is attached to the side of the unit. Is that okay?
Not okay. That's a removable panel, and you can't have a service protection equipment mounted to a removable panel.
Okay, if it's not removable, can I add my disconnect to a non-removable panel on the side of a extra unit?
Yes, as long as it's non-removable.
Okay, does everybody understand that? You can put the disconnect on a non-removable panel on the exterior. You got to make sure the screws don't go through. Harris, do I have to have this little black box at the bottom of the disconnect?
Yeah, that's called a surge protector.
Is it required?
And well, now it is, because all these new units have electronics inside for controlling everything, and they're very subject to damage by surges. So you have to have a surge protector to protect that.
Is
the
it
equipment.
code, Harris? Is it code or does the manufacturer require it?
Oh, it's manufacturer's requirement, it's not code.
Okay, everybody.
But, hold on,
Yes.
in the brand new code, in the new code now, it is required on every house.
Yeah. So
Built
let's.
right in on the main panel.
Yeah. Okay. And so Harris is saying something we don't care about at the moment, but we can write down that the manufacturer requires it. That we can say because we're not code compliance people. So Harris, if I'm looking at this box out here, is this a combination unit with forced air gas AC?
Well, yes, yeah,
Okay.
it's a gas pack.
Okay. So a gas pack is a brand name, which has become part of vernacular of what we say today. That's okay, everybody. Okay. So if I look down here, the gas appears to be off because the valve is off. So when someone says appears to be, is it off or not?
It's
Yes,
off.
it's off. Okay. And do you turn it on to verify it works, Harris, or do you leave it off as found?
You leave it off and you just take a picture of it, say the gas is in the off position. You don't know why.
Okay, but you don't have to light anything. It has automatic ignition. Can't you just turn that valve?
Nope, I don't.
Oh man. Okay. You shouldn't be turning anything on that's gas, anybody. So I just did a brand new house. It's only 6 months old, and I found a gas leak. It's the best. And they said, "How'd you find it?" "Well, you can smell it. Come on." And the gas guy showed up, and guess what he wants to do when he retires in 5 years? He wants to be like us. He wants to be a home inspector. I love it. Okay, so then I come over here and I have to have a sediment trap as close as possible to the gas valve. It makes a right angle turn or whatever, and a piece of pipe sticking down. Doesn't matter what the height is. And then the gas line coming over is the only item that's on it for 1/2 inch is this one item. So when I get back in here, it's going to have to be 3/4 or something. Here's some ductwork in the back that's hooked up. So this thing must be, oh, it is. It's sitting on the ground outside and blows back into the house. Okay, any other questions about this thing? We're going to do a
Looks
class
good.
on inspecting AC units later. Okay, is this smoke detector too low?
Yeah, if you read manufacturer's installation requirements, no more than 12 inches from the highest point on the ceiling.
Okay, here's the rule. If I can look into the smoke detector and see that green light facing into my eye, it's way too low, everybody. It can't be lower than the doors. Now, if you go into pre-manufactured housing, these things are always mounted below the doorways. I don't know why. You think someone would call them and say, "Can you install them for the manufacturer's requirements?" Harris said it. So it's a 6-foot rule, no farther than 6 feet, 12 inches off the ceiling, blah, blah, blah. Here's a thermostat. Harris, do you operate the thermostat to turn on the heating and cooling?
Yes, I do.
Well,
That's a normal control to operate the equipment.
oh, okay. You'll turn it on there because it's normal, but you won't turn on the gas valve.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, this one's out of focus, so we'll skip it and we'll come back to it later. Here it says photovoltaic power source. Breakers are backfeeding. What's that mean to me, Harris?
Okay, that means you have photovoltaic panels, solar panels on the roof,
Solar?
solar panel on the roof,
Okay,
and it's backfeeding the panel.
cool. So what?
You got to be careful. There's always power available. As soon as the sun is shining, it produces electricity. It's dangerous.
Oh, okay. Is that why your meter can run backwards or show no usage?
Yes.
Okay, this one I just showed it. There's paint inside the panel. They took off the cover and they're spraying and they got paint all over the bus bar and the breakers. You're smiling.
Not good.
You're smiling, Harris. What are you going to say?
The panel should be replaced
There you go.
because now
Boy, you are tough. The poor remodeling guy is going to cry now. If there's any paint on the breakers and on the inside on these areas, there's a specific part of something called the code that says any paint on the inside of the bus bar requires replacement. Bad.
Right.
Okay, Harris, you removed this cover because you told me you like to take a knife and cut the dead front cover off, and then when you did, you put it up and there was a pointy screw inside of that. Is that okay?
That's not okay. You can't have any pointed screw on a dead front cover or panel cover.
Okay. The code actually doesn't say pointy screw. It says that screw must have a blunt end. And I never say that because everyone goes, what? And I just says it can't have a point on it. I don't know why they just don't say that, but Why, Harris? You're an electrician.
Because electricians don't always understand that.
Okay, well, blunt, I think means something else. I think it has something to do with smoking a cigarette or something.
It could be.
Yeah, okay. So here is a Midwest box, and I see a lot of electricians using the word, I need a Midwest box installed. Well, that's because that's the brand. So inside here is a receptacle of some sort, and then here's another receptacle over here. Why, Harris?
Well, the receptacle in the box, Midwest box on the left could be for an RV, could be for a welder, it could be for any 240 volt circuit.
Okay. And then the
On
one
the
over
right,
here- I'm sorry, Harris, what?
on the right is a duplex receptacle, most likely,
Okay, well, why does it have that big bubble on it? Why is that big cover there?
because the code requires that if you plug something in on the exterior, it has to be protected from the rain with the type of cover that protects it
Ah, cool. Okay.
while it's plugged in.
Ah, okay, Harris, I'm inside the garage and I have a dead front cover in the firewall between the garage and the house. Is there a problem with that?
You can't have a panel on a firewall because that defeats the purpose of a firewall.
Ah, can you repeat that again, Harris? This comes up all the time.
Okay, you can't have a internal panel on a firewall in a garage because it defeats the purpose of a firewall.
So unless the panel cover's rated for that, and are there any rated for that?
There are no panels that are rated for fireproof on a firewall.
Right. So the only way they could do that is if they built another wall on the inside of this wall to make the firewall intact.
Right.
Okay. So I write these up all the time, and there's a lot of people that are still crying about it. But is it in the code, Harris?
Well, yes, it's in the code. It talks about firewalls.
Fire
What you can
separation
and
wall.
can't do on a firewall.
Fire separation wall. Okay. Now, are we required to report on the condition of the fire separation wall under our SOPs?
Yes, we are.
This is wrong. Then you write it up and you tell them it's wrong. Okay. It is. Okay. There's my whatever this thing is called. Vacuum.
Central vacuum.
And here's my plug. Now, does that receptacle need to be GFI protected 10 years ago?
No, it should be a single receptacle, and it
But it's
does
not.
not have to be. I see it's a duplex. If it's a duplex, it has to be GFI protected. If it's a single purpose outlet, it does not have to be GFI.
Thank you. Okay, this I thought this was pretty cool. This popped out of the countertop. It has two little receptacles here, and this is made for more, I guess.
Yep.
This is polarized, right, Harris?
Yes, it is.
What's that mean?
That means you have one slot that's larger than the other slot. You can only plug a plug in that's polarized one way.
Okay, but we're supposed to be reporting according to our SOPs. No one knows what that means, that we're supposed to check for polarized receptacles and reverse polarity.
Right, and you test that out with putting a probe into the larger slot, touching it to a ground. If it lights up, it's got reverse polarity.
Okay, so right now, if I plug in my tester, this small side is going to be energized. Is that what you're telling me?
Right, that should be energized. The other side should be a neutral,
Okay, and then
and the bottom should be ground.
Okay, so if I had a tester that did continuity and I tested between these two, I'd get continuity.
Yes, it should light up.
And if I test between this small one and either one of these, I'll get 120 volts.
Yes,
Thank you. Okay, I get to the inspection and the light's hanging off the ceiling here. Do I spend time fixing it or do I write it up?
write it up.
Okay, and it works. It just fell off the ceiling. It's hanging there.
Not installed properly.
Not installed properly. I like that. I write down the fixture is hanging off the wires. This is unsafe and needs immediate repair. Okay. Harris, you installed this wiring for the doorbell.
Oh yeah, knob and tube.
Yeah. Okay, so right here I have knob and tube, and someone did a wiring connection, put a piece of tape, and then has it hanging down right here where they cut it loose. They just sort of laid it in like they're pruning a tree, and then they put this transformer in here and ran this down, off the edge here on knob and tube. Now, Harris, on knob and tube, they look the same color. Why?
Well, because back when they installed knob and tube, there was no such thing as polarity. They weren't sure what was live, what was neutral, because it's AC current. And AC means alternating current. It switches from plus to minus, plus to minus. And so at one point, the black wire or the live wire would be plus, and at one point it would be minus. Since they didn't know anything about polarity, it didn't matter.
Okay, so if I take a volt stick and I wave it around this wire up here and it goes beep, 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 that's the hot one?
Yes.
Energized. And if it makes no noise on this one, that's the
neutral.
Neutral, thank you. Okay, this light fixture here is okay, but I took this picture because there's 4 black dots on the ceiling, but there's only 3 light fixtures here. Why are there 4 black dots on the ceiling?
Well, they might have had a 4-bulb fixture there before. That's a new fixture.
What, mounted where these black dots are on the ceiling?
Well, yeah, because what happened is the other fixture might have had the bulbs facing upward, and the heat generated from the bulbs caused all the dust and dirt to accumulate on the ceiling above the bulbs.
Okay, is this the same thing as called ghosting, when someone burns a lot of candles or waxy type products, or there's dirt in the air?
Pretty much similar.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not wax.
Yeah, in this case, it's just dirt in the air. The heat's making it stick to the ceiling. Can I get rid of that?
Scrub it.
Okay. Okay, now, this picture here is sort of nondescript what it is, but I'm going to point over here to the left. Harris, what is that wire connected to this pipe where there's a gas meter?
That's called a bonding wire.
Okay, so gas lines need a bonding wire?
Yes, all metallic pipes need to be bonded.
Ah, cool. Okay, and then here's my meter. It's underground. I can see a pipe here threaded. What's this distance between my regulator of my gas meter and the ignition source at my electrical?
3 feet.
Okay, 3 feet. Why is it 3 feet? Because that's the requirement?
That's a requirement listed by the companies.
Now, when it's closer than that, do you write it up?
Yes,
Always?
most of the time.
He writes it up all the time, everybody. He didn't want to answer me because he's afraid I'm trying to trick him. Okay, I want everybody to tell me why that metal is installed over the smart meter. It's a smart meter guard. It's a Faraday cage, Harris.
What is it?
It's a Faraday cage.
Faraday?
Faraday, yeah, it's called a Faraday cage. So people who want to hide, they go into a building where they have brass screening around them to stop the waves from a telephone coming in and being followed. So this guy here ordered this off. I went online to check on it. The meter is a smart meter, and it sends a signal out when they drive down the street. Well, he wants them to read the meter, so he bought this thing online, and he put it around the meter, and it prevents it from sending out a signal. Faraday cage, you can look that up and see what it's like. Enemy of the State, it's a movie, and they talk about Faraday cages throughout the whole movie. Okay, this one is really hard to see, but it's a rosette with a chain pull on it, and what I'm looking at here, there's no box. What they did, they took a piece of metal, like a coffee can, and crushed it, and then put this light fixture right up against it, right up against the ceiling. And I took this picture to show there's no box here on the chain pull for this. So outside outlet, no GFI. This is a little disconnect outside, and it shows here there can be 8 circuits. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like I can put these twins in everywhere if I had to. This one here sort of looks weird. It looks like a duplicate, but the person who did the inspection said they couldn't tell what size service it was. So I had to get in my car and drive on out there and prove to them they knew what it was. So I'm looking straight at the breaker, and I put a mirror up, and I look down at the top of the handle right here, and with my mirror I can read it, and it says 100 amps. But I had to drive out there to save this poor inspector by taking my mirror because they'd already left, and that's how easy it was. Okay, here we go. I don't carry a tape measure with me, but if it looks too close, I write it up. Most meters, they have a little square thing sitting on this pipe here telling me that it's met that it's been measured and meets the requirement. So if there's no square pipe on here, it doesn't meet that requirement. So I write it up. It's 36 inches from the regulator right here, everybody. 36 inches from here, not this. And if it's too close, it's threaded. Then they put a pipe down and over to pull that vent away from the electrical device, okay? So what's this device here called, Harris, with this handle on it?
That's a switch handle.
Okay, now on residential, one thing I've been finding that's sort of weird, there's no auto lockout. I could just open this panel here and it just swings open. On commercial, I can't open it unless I shut off the power. How come?
It's a safety thing that you can't work on an energized panel.
But how come in residential, there's no interlock there? I just open this up and it just swings open.
Well, if it's an old panel, it doesn't have a safety lock. If it's a new one, it does.
Oh, okay. So you're telling me that all panels that where I have exposed fuses inside, the newer ones will prevent me from opening it if it's energized.
Correct.
Okay, so you must write that up that it's unsafe, everybody. If I'm able to open this door with it energized, it's unsafe because you just reach in there and touch those fuses. Okay. Again, here is the panel, and all these little X's here show me that I can put the twins here at the top and the full-size breakers below. And so I always look in here and it shows me what I can have. When I look at the panel, I see the twins down here. I know they snapped loose the safety devices and installed them. Is this okay, Harris?
Not okay.
Ever?
Romex does not terminate properly in a connector.
Okay, do I have to have stress relief as it enters the metal box?
Yes, you do.
Okay, thank you. And then in this case here, it's an unfinished wall. And I see they have a cover plate on here, so it's unfinished. Is it okay to have wire exposed on an unfinished wall in living space?
Yes, it is, provided it's stapled properly to the side of the 2x4, 2x6, whatever it is, stud.
Cool. Okay, I'm not sure why this picture's here. We'll skip it. Okay, so this pipe, if it's 2 inches and it goes higher than 2 feet, I need support. Is that correct, Harris?
That's right. It has to be opposite the direction of the feeder cables.
Okay, and I actually had to look this one up, Harris. There is no rule that it has to be that way.
Well, it does when you talk to the power company, they have certain rules that you have to follow. Otherwise, They won't give you power.
That's right, yeah. So the power company makes that rule, but there's nothing in the code. There's nothing in the manufacturer, because I bought these supports before, and it's sort of weird. It says the pipe can go this way or that way, but the power company tells you what they want. So there's low voltage attached to the house, nothing attached to the mast, so I'm pretty happy. Okay, I have a service panel here, and if I look, this connection here and this connection here, it looks like I can put 6 full-size breakers in the panel. Is that how many disconnects I can have in this type of panel box?
Yes, that's the maximum.
Okay, so in this case here, they've put in a GCFI. It's old, and here's my disconnect right here. Here's my 30, and here's my 70. So I see this is cloth covered, and if we're able to look at the wire, it almost looks aluminy. But if I scratch it, it's copper covered with what kind of silver coating?
Tin.
Tin. Okay. I'm showing a timer here on the side. That fixture, there it is. Probably turn on the fan. Here's the tub here. Okay, we're going to finish with this one. It's 8:30. Is this meter too close to the electrical?
Yes, it is.
It is. So you write that up. Gas company, they won't argue with you. They're mandated with fixing this. It's not like it's required to be 36 inches away from an ignition source. They come out and they'll fix that. It can't be near the air conditioner, 36 inches. It can't be within the electrical, 36 inches. That's the rule. Okay, does anybody have any questions? You've all been the best. Roger, before you got on, we talked about the fact that we're changing some of the SOPs probably this next year. Also, if you're doing parallel inspections, some of the houses that they pick for parallel inspections, you need to make sure they're really a house. They're not counting some guest houses. So we'll have to make sure on the parallel inspection sheet. that's the case. The next class is going to be report writing with an emphasis on something. Anybody know what it is? I can't remember. Oh, it's air conditioning is the next week. Okay. If there's some area you'd like us to do,
2 weeks.
huh?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's right. It's every 2 weeks, everybody. Every 2 weeks, every Tuesday. If there's an area that you want to go over, please send us a notice so we can go ahead and put that online for you. This will be up online for download if you'd like by Friday. Okay. Anything else?
No, thank you as always.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Greg.
Bye.
Go out and multiply. Do more inspections. Bye, everybody. I mean multiply, numbers. Bye. Good night.
Good night.
All right.